Today I'm going to cut up a couple of chickens, and I thought I'd share the process with you, show you how to debone and skin a whole chicken. And I'll make stock out of the bones later, and I'll share that with you on a later video. But first thing you're going to need is a nice sharp boning knife like this, and I keep a butcher's steel on hand. If you don't have one, you should go out and get one. They help keep your knives sharp and make them last longer. Sharpen up my knife a little bit, and we can get going. So let's get started. I try to go for the smaller chickens if possible, 5 pounds or less. They're hard to find these days though. This is the 2 breasts right here. This is the front of the chicken. What you want to do is start on the back, and you'll see where the neck comes up, and what you want to do is cut down either side of that neck, well, both sides of the neck eventually. And what I do is I'll hook a wing like this, put the knife right in alongside the neck, and go down until I get to the thigh, and you'll be able to pop the thigh bone out from the hip bone like that, if you can see it, and you pop that out like that. You should be able to see, and then you've got a piece of meat that runs curving like this along the bone, so you want to take your knife and just go like that. That gets what's referred to as the oyster, a nice tender piece of dark meat. So now you've got that half off. Go down the other side of the neck, right down the backbone, and you'll hear some crackling and crunching as you go along because you're cutting through bones. Once in a while you have to wiggle it a little bit so you can see that joint, the hip joint. And you pop that thigh bone out of the hip joint and curve the knife right around here like this. And take the back right out. I'll use this for stock later on. Got a little piece of liver in there, that's no big deal. Get that out of there. Alright, so now you can see the thighs and the legs are already separating from it. And what you want to do is put your knife, this is where the wishbone is. You want to put your knife right in the middle there, and just cut down and press against the sides until you can see that keel bone, or what's called a keel bone, start to pop out. If you have to, give a little push up from the bottom, and you run your finger down the sides of that membrane there to separate it as much as possible, and you should be able to pull it out in one piece. If it breaks off, it's no big deal. You pull the rest of it out, and that'll go into stock also. Now you've got 2 breasts, one here and one here. You got 2 legs and thighs, one here and one here. And what you want to do is run right down through the middle to separate the 2 halves of the chicken. Now you could roast these as they are, but what I normally do is I'll take the wings off and freeze them for chicken wings at some point in time when I get enough of them. And it doesn't take too long to get enough for me, because I generally debone all my chicken myself, and that's usually a couple of chickens every week or so. So you can cut right down between the thigh and the breast. There's very little, if any, bone between the 2. Now I can feel a little bone there I might have to cut through, but usually you can go right through and you encounter no bones there. Let's take this wing off. wife and I, we eat a lot of chicken, so I'll do a couple of chickens every other week or so, and vacuum seal them, throw them into the freezer. Right, and I got to skin that. The skin comes off pretty easily. Sometimes you don't even need the knife. Fat off of it a little bit. Alright, now you can see there's a line of fat between the leg and the thigh. And if you follow that right down, straight down through, you should be able to disconnect the leg and the thigh without having to cut through any bone. The breast, we'll start to debone the breast here, and there's a membrane. I hope you can see it. And you slide your knife underneath that membrane and pull it out, cutting away from you. And then right down underneath the bones. And then just pretty much cutting against the bone and working your way down. Separate the breast nicely from the rib bones and half of the wishbone, the breastbone. Hang on. So now you've got your basic boneless, skinless breast, and right along here got what's referred to as the chicken tender, and this is what I'll use for dinner, for one dinner, is the chicken breasts, and I'll fry up the chicken tenders or saute them, add them to a pasta or something. Now the thigh and the leg, you might find a little bit of the backbone on the thigh. Cut that off and use it for stock. And you'll see this line of fat that goes down the middle of the thigh. And you cut into that all the way down to the thigh bone. And then you pretty much just scrape the knife against the bone on both sides to separate the meat from the bone until you get it 2/3 to 3/4 of the way exposed. And you can just slide the knife under the bone, bring it up, then go down the bone, keeping the knife pretty much against the bone while you cut so that you don't cut the meat away. And throw that thigh bone into the stock pot. And now you've got a nice boneless, skinless thigh. I generally make these into teriyaki and grill them, or I'll put them into a stew because they have more fat, they stay juicy longer. And that's a nice beautiful chicken thigh there. Now the leg, a little trickier. What I do is I'll cut around the foot end of the thigh. With the leg, and just push the meat down the bone. And you have to keep in mind, if you've ever eaten a chicken or turkey thigh or leg, there's this piece of gristle that runs down the leg. You want to avoid that. And you take it to the narrowest part of the leg, and I just cut right down to the bone. And then work my way around the thigh end of the leg to separate the meat from the bone. a stock pot, and this I'll add to the thighs when I do the teriyaki or the stew casserole dish. I'll show you that again. Take the breast here, take the skin off of it. Like that. And then flip it over and slide the knife into under the membrane there. Separate that. And if you hold the knife right up against the bones, you shouldn't cut too much of the meat. You shouldn't lose too much of the meat. And just follow the bones all the way down. And again, you'll have the other half of the wishbone, the breastbone there, that you have to cut out of the breast. You got a boneless, skinless breast with tender attached. Now the tender is this piece right here. So you can cut it like that. Or you got your chicken tenders for your children. Still a little membrane there, and sometimes you'll have a little bit of the gristle from the keel bone from the chicken. You want to cut that out. All the trim goes into the stock pot, and these pieces here go into the freezer. And then again with the leg. And you can take the skin off as it is, like this. Or you could cut the thigh and the leg apart and then take the skin off each piece. It doesn't really matter. Alright, there's that line of fat that you want to follow down through. It goes right down through. A little bit of gristle you have to go through, but no bones. And there's the line of fat for the separating the thigh bone. And again, go down each side until you're 2/3, 3/4 of the way through or around the bone. You can just slide the knife under there, bring it up one side, down the other, and then just cut it away from the backbone side. And there's a little bit of tough sinew there, and little bits of cartilage here. Get rid of that. A nice boneless, skinless thigh. Take a little bit of this fat off here. Bone goes into the stock. Thighs go into the freezer. And again with the leg. Cut around the foot end of the leg. Push it all down towards the hip end, thigh end. And then you find the narrowest part. Cut right down to the bone. Down the rest of the way.